It's 2 in the morning. You're lying in bed, wide awake, scrolling through your phone. The word divorce keeps circling in your head like an annoying pop-up ad you can't click out of. It's time. You've tried the conversations. You've done the counseling. Maybe you've even already separated. But now you're staring down this huge, confusing, expensive process and thinking, do I really need to hire a lawyer just to end this thing? Here's the thing, you're not alone. More than 600,000 divorces happen every year in the US, and a growing number of people are choosing to go through it without a lawyer. And not just because they're broke. Some people want more control, more privacy, or a quicker process. Others, they just don't want to deal with the drama or the bill. Here's a quick stat that might blow your mind. In many states, a significant number of divorce cases, especially uncontested ones, involve at least one person representing themselves. So you're not crazy for asking the question. And in this episode, we're going to walk through exactly how to get a divorce in the US without a lawyer. From figuring out if you even can, to handling the paperwork, splitting up the stuff, dealing with custody, and avoiding the landmines that could seriously mess up your future. Stick with me, because by the end of this episode, you're going to walk away with a clear roadmap. No jargon, no legal fluff. Just straight-up information you can actually use. Let's break it down. So first, can you actually get divorced without a lawyer? The answer is yes, but with a few very important asterisks. If you and your spouse are relatively on the same page, you both agree it's over, there's not a ton of fighting, and you can have civil conversations about who gets what, you're in a good position to go the DIY route. This is often called an uncontested divorce, and it's by far the simplest and cheapest kind of divorce you can file without hiring an attorney. Now, if you've got kids, property, debts, or retirement accounts, that doesn't automatically mean you need a lawyer, but it does mean you'll have to be extra careful to handle those details properly. Because what you put on paper during your divorce, that stuff becomes legally binding. But if we're talking about serious conflict, abuse, hiding of money, someone not cooperating, or you're just feeling overwhelmed, it's probably not worth risking your financial future or your mental health. In that case, having a lawyer could save you more money than it costs. All right, let's assume you're in the uncontested camp. Things are manageable. You and your soon-to-be ex are willing to talk this through like adults. What's the actual step-by-step process? First off, every state has its own rules for how divorce works. Some states have waiting periods. Others require you to live there for a certain amount of time before you can even file. And here's something a lot of people get wrong. All 50 states allow no-fault divorce, meaning you don't have to prove your spouse did something wrong. You can simply say the marriage is irretrievably broken or irreconcilable. Now, some states also allow fault-based divorce if there was adultery or abuse, but that's optional, not required. So before anything else, you need to go to your state's official court website. And I do mean the .gov one, not the random lawyer blog you found on Google, and look up the requirements for divorce in your state. Type this in your search bar. Your state uncontested divorce self-help guide site .gov. That's going to get you to the official resources, forms, and instructions you actually need. Now, once you've confirmed you're eligible, the process usually goes something like this. Step 1. Fill out the initial forms. This usually includes a petition for dissolution of marriage, sometimes called a complaint. This is just legal language for, hey, I want a divorce. If you have children, there will be additional forms related to custody, child support, and parenting plans. If you own property or have debts, you'll need to list those too. Now, a big tip here. Many courts actually have fill-in-the-blank forms made just for people who don't have lawyers. Some even offer interactive tools that guide you through each question. Some counties in states like California, Florida, and New York even offer online portals where you can file digitally, step by step, without ever stepping into a courtroom. But it's not statewide everywhere, so definitely check with your specific county court to see what's available. Once your paperwork is filled out, you file it with the court clerk in your county. And yes, there's usually a filing fee. These range from $100 to $400 depending on where you are, but most courts also offer a fee waiver if your income is low. Don't be afraid to ask for it. It's literally a form you fill out. Next up, serving your spouse. Legally, your spouse has to be notified that you've filed for divorce. This isn't a casual text like, hey, just filed, LOL. No, but it needs to be official. Every state has rules about how this works, and usually it means using a process server, the sheriff's office, or even certified mail with return receipt. Here's something to keep in mind. Even if you and your spouse are on good terms, the court still requires proof that the other person was notified properly. It's part of due process. Without it, your case can't move forward. Now, after they've been served, they have a certain number of days to respond. Again, that number depends on your state, but it's usually between 20 and 30 days. If they don't respond at all, you may be able to request what's called a default judgment, meaning the court can move forward without their input. But keep in mind, some states still require a short hearing, where you present your case and show the judge everything was done by the book. If they do respond and agree to everything you proposed, that's even better. It confirms this is an uncontested divorce. Now comes the agreement part, and this is key. The two of you will need to create a settlement agreement. This is where you decide who gets what stuff, who's responsible for what debts, who keeps the house, or if you're selling it. What happens with custody, visitation, child support, alimony, all of that. This agreement has to be written down, signed by both of you, and submitted to the court. Here's the part where a lot of people mess up. They get lazy with the wording. They think, we're cool now. No need to spell everything out. Huge mistake. Vague agreements cause problems later. Be clear, be specific. Use plain English, but make sure there's no room for misinterpretation. Also, if you're including a parenting plan, just know it needs to be approved by the court to become legally enforceable. So don't skip that step. Now, in some states, the judge will review your paperwork and agreement and sign off without a hearing. In others, you might be asked to appear in court briefly just to confirm everything's legit. It's usually short and not scary, just a few questions to make sure no one's being forced or left out in the cold. Once the judge signs off, you get a final judgment of dissolution of marriage. And boom, you're officially divorced. Some states have a waiting period between when you file and when the divorce is finalized. Could be 30 days, 60 days, even 6 months. Again, check your state's rules. Okay, let's talk about a few common issues that trip people up in DIY divorces. First, retirement accounts. If you're splitting a 401k, IRA, or pension, you may need something called a QDRO, Qualified Domestic Relations Order. It's a separate legal order that tells the plan administrator how to divide the funds. And here's the kicker. Even after a judge signs it, the plan administrator has to approve it. If the language isn't just right, they might reject it. And if you screw it up, there could be taxes and penalties. This is one area where it might actually save you money to have a lawyer or a financial pro help draft it. Second, parenting plans. Don't just say, we'll figure it out as we go. Courts want to see a clear plan. Who has the kids on which days? How are holidays handled? What about travel, school decisions, medical care? If you don't lay it out, you're basically setting yourselves up for future conflict, or worse, contempt of court if someone doesn't follow through. Third, child support. Every state has a formula for calculating this. Don't guess. Use the online calculator from your state's official family court or child support agency website. Plug in the numbers and follow the guidelines. That way, the judge is more likely to approve your agreement. Fourth, name changes. If you want to change your last name back to your maiden name or to something else entirely, you usually have to request it as part of the divorce paperwork. It's simpler to do it during the divorce, but you can still request a name change later through a separate court process if you need to. Fifth, taxes. Divorce can affect your taxes big time. Who gets to claim the kids? What about deductions? What's your filing status now? And especially since the tax rules around alimony changed in 2019. What you agree to in your divorce can impact your return for years. A quick consult with a CPA could literally save you thousands. Okay, so you've made it this far, and maybe you're thinking, this all sounds doable, but also like a ton of paperwork. And honestly, you're right. The paperwork part can feel overwhelming. Not because it's impossible, but because it's easy to make small mistakes that can snowball into bigger issues later. For example, people often leave blanks on forms because they're unsure how to answer. Don't do that. Courts usually won't accept incomplete paperwork. Or they'll delay your case while they send it back for corrections. Another common issue? Forgetting to file required documents like financial disclosures. Some states won't finalize your divorce without those, and you might not realize it until you've waited weeks for a hearing that never gets scheduled. And here's another one. Doing things in the wrong order, like serving your spouse before the clerk officially stamps your petition. Sounds minor, but in some states, that one little move can mess up the entire process. That's just one example of why it's so important to follow your court's instructions, line by line. The best way to avoid these pitfalls? Print out a checklist from your court's website if they offer one. Take your time. This isn't something to rush through between errands. Set aside a couple hours, read everything slowly, and double-check before submitting. Trust me, a few extra minutes up front can save you weeks, months, or even months of delay. You're not wrong. But the good news is there are tools out there that can walk you through the whole thing. Websites like Hello Divorce, Strider, and even your local legal aid office might offer guided software or document prep for way less than a lawyer would charge. Some start as low as $150. And if your income is low, legal aid or your county court might even help you for free. Just Google free divorce legal aid in your state and see what pops up. All right, so let's do a quick recap. If you're trying to get divorced in the US without a lawyer, it's totally possible, especially if your divorce is uncontested. You'll need to check your state's divorce requirements, fill out the correct forms, serve your spouse legally, create a clear, detailed settlement agreement, file it all with the court and possibly attend a short hearing, and wait for the judge to finalize it. And if you remember nothing else from this episode, let it be this. The more effort you put into getting the details right now, the fewer problems you'll have down the line. Clarity is kindness. Even in divorce, you've got this.